Professional speakers, what if the opportunities you're seeking are already in the conversations you're having, but not yet fully captured? What if it's not your message that's holding you back, but how precisely or persuasively you're articulating its value? And what would change if every interaction positioned you not just as a speaker, but as the obvious choice? Well, that's exactly the focus of NSA SoCal's upcoming session with Quinn Conyers, who's on the call today. Hi, Quinn.
Hi, how are you?
Now, I'm great, thank you. So, Quinn, just for the listener, is a keynote speaker. She's an MC, a corporate communications trainer with nearly 2 decades of experience helping professionals elevate how they communicate their value, which is actually a dear topic to me. I speak about value as well. So we're going to get along just fine, Quinn. And Quinn's work centers on what she calls a verbal business card, a clear, concise, and compelling way to express what you do, how you transform audiences, and why it matters. And using what she describes as luxury language. I love that. And she is speaking to NSA SoCal about turning conversations into speaking contracts. Quinn, on behalf of NSA SoCal, it's a pleasure to connect with you and have you on the guest speaker spotlight series. Welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm excited for the invitation, but more excited to really show speakers how their voice is going to be their superpower into attracting more speaking opportunities.
Beautiful. Thank you, Quinn. All right, we've got a few questions here for Quinn. So you can be probably listening to this in the car or on the plane or in an airport, wherever you are as a professional speaker and professional traveler, really. So, Quinn, let's start with a few casual ones. Where are you joining us from today, and what's been energizing you recently in your work?
Yeah, so I'm joining from Baltimore, Maryland. So I'm super excited to be here. Charm City is what it is known for. And I think what has been jazzing me up about my career lately is the invitations to host and MC events. I feel like there was a time that the keynote speaker was at the throne. Keynote speaking was the king and queen of the speaking industry. And that's how I started as well. And as I began to evolve and do a lot of different events, I felt like, in the industry, there was an overlook or an underestimation of the MC role. Who's introducing the speaker? Who's being the glue that holds the event together?
Mm.
So I would say right now, what I'm excited about and what has me jazzed up is that more and more event planners are seeing the need for, yes, a keynote speaker, but they're also seeing the value of an MC. And there was a time where I had to convince and let people know that, boring board member Bob or a member of their senior executive team
I know
wasn't the
exactly
right
what you
person.
mean.
I know. So there was a time where I had to do a lot of convincing, and I think that I built a brand, and I have championed around this role of if you're having an event, you need an MC. So that's what's jazzing me up. That people are just starting to get it, Sam. They're starting to
Yeah,
understand it.
beautiful. Hey, listen to all the Bobs out there. You know what? Get in contact with Quinn. You know, get some new material, get some new pizzazz. All right, thank you, Quinn. All right, Quinn, what's been keeping you busy lately, and where are you seeing the biggest communication gaps for speakers right now?
I think the biggest communication gaps is for speakers, especially. I'll start there. Is that a lot of speakers are putting a lot of effort and intention into the things that are needed to grow their speaking business, but they're overlooking the things that are necessary to grow and build a better business. So when I talk about the things that are needed, they're working very hard on their speaking career, on their website, and showing up on social media and being visible and
Hmm.
consistent. That's needed. But what happens is I think that a lot of speakers forget that they're also the spokesperson of their business and of their brand. So we're having conversations with potential clients with or without our permission. And I believe the thing that's missing with that is we are stuck in what I call discount dialect. We're stuck in saying, I'm just a leadership speaker. I'm a customer service speaker. We don't know how to verbalize our value. And I believe that that is a huge opportunity for people not to just say their title, but being able to communicate their transformation that they provide to audiences. And that's what's missing. So they have the great website, they wrote a book, but when someone says, well, tell me what you speak about, they're dropping the ball. It sounds generic, it sounds basic, it sounds like every other speaker, and they
Mm.
don't know how to differentiate themselves, and it's costing them dollars.
Yeah, the discount dialect. I love that phrase. It's as if people are, underselling themselves through their word choice. And
Correct.
I love the underlying sort of fact that there may be some self-worth issues around who they are. And that then leads to another level of, are you really in alignment with your
Hmm.
highest values and your
Hmm.
authentic self, and enthusiastic to communicate that to people without, comparing yourself to other people or judging yourself. So I really love that you're speaking about this.
Yeah, it's definitely needed, and people don't even realize it. They feel like they want to be, promote themselves, but they're really afraid to toot their own horn. So they're not fully stepping into who they are, or if they are, they're using weak words and discount words
Mm,
to describe what they do versus using language to really elevate and enhance the transformation or the speaking service they provide. And that's the part that I'm trying to switch when it comes to speakers and MCs. Like, listen, you have to be the champion for your speaking business, and you have to be able to describe and articulate what you do that makes people tune in instead of tuning out.
magnificently said. Yeah. I also like to think that if a person is doing that, it's because there is usually some person in their mind that they are comparing themselves to. And they are saying, well, I'm not like that. So they're their language reflects, because they're judging themselves in comparison to a specific individual and putting them on a pedestal, they naturally put themselves into a bit of a pit. And so I think it would be wise for people to go, well, if I am discounting my language, who am I putting above me? Is it an ideal version of myself? Is it a fantasy? Is there a specific individual? And then breaking that fantasy so that they can own the qualities that they've projected into other people and say, actually, I have that same greatness.
See, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's comparison. I think it's unawareness.
Mm.
I think that people are not even aware that the language that they're using to describe their keynote talks,
Yeah,
the
that's the
language
first
that
level for
they,
sure.
they're not even aware that when they're talking about their speaking services, that they're doing it at a discount level. So I think that when they are having conversation, they're telling people what they do or what they speak about. I don't think they're comparing anybody else. I think they just haven't put the time, the tension, and the deliberateness into saying, here is a type of speaker that I am, and here's a
Mm.
transformation that I can provide within 60 minutes. I just don't think they put so much energy and effort into the reel, the website, versus when someone says, well, what do you speak about? We haven't
Yeah.
put any intention into it. And that's why it's coming off flat. It's disconnecting. That's what I believe it is. It's just like, I
Nice.
just
Nice.
haven't put no work, I haven't thought about it, is what I think it
Yeah.
comes down to.
Thank you. All right. When a speaker says, I speak on leadership or I speak on communication,
Correct.
what's missing in that? And what should they be saying instead?
Everything is missing with that. First and foremost, I believe that one of the biggest mistakes that speakers give is their title, which is, I'm a leadership speaker, I'm a
Mm,
communication speaker. And what they need to change is, they have to be able to provide not just the title, but the transformation.
mm,
So what's missing is, everybody likes a good niche. What kind of leadership speaker, right? Being able to verbalize the value. So when people hear about what you speak about, they should raise their hand and say, Sam is perfect for my audience. So I think, like, if you're just going to take leadership or communication, it has to be like, what type of leadership? I'm a leadership speaker for millennials. I'm a leadership speaker for Gen Z. So I think it's like, leadership is not created equal. And I think that the biggest part is they haven't really identified who they super serve, right? So there are leaders that have just got promoted to the C suite. That is a very different leader than if you've been an intern and now you got your first manager position.
Yeah.
You're still a leader, right? Or let's say, for example, you've been working in groups and now you just got promoted and now you are now leading 9 other people, right? So I think that one of the biggest things that speaker can do is really define what type of speaker they are beyond the title. And that kind of gives your talk, your audience shape. So when people are going to your website, they're going to your LinkedIn, they can see their audience in your messaging.
Yeah.
And that's what we're missing. It's too generic. It's too basic. It's too, if I always hear this, if I can take, my name off my website and put Sam's name and people wouldn't know the difference, then you probably have a messaging and positioning problem. So I say choose who you can super serve, right? Like for me or for anyone else, because I work with leaders, but it also can be I work with leaders who just got out of college and it's their first job and their ultimate goal is make it to the C-suite. That's a very different leader than I am very comfortable and confident being a mid-level manager and I want to do well in this role. Or I'm a leader who is in my 60s and I have a team of Gen Zs.
Yeah.
How do I manage this? So it's almost like
There's more
define that.
context.
Correct. More
Yeah.
context.
Thank you. Well put. All right. You talk about luxury language.
Yeah.
How does the way something is said influence how its value is perceived?
So I know, Sam, I'm about to make a couple of speakers uncomfortable with what I'm about
Do
to
it.
say now.
Do it.
Um, and I think that speakers mean very well, but one of the things when it comes to discount dialect and luxury language is an emerging theme that I see is I help audiences, I help attendees, I help employees, I help leaders. And to me, what we do is so transformational that when we say help, we sound like everybody else. And
Mm.
help in just in little, I just speak to leaders, or I have a little speaking business, or I help leaders do become more productive. It diminishes what we really can do. So instead of saying I help, or instead of saying just, or I have this little speaking business, if you replace that with what I call luxury language, which is your genius on steroids, which is more active words like I support, I acknowledge, I disrupt, I partner with leaders to bring out their best leadership qualities so they can serve their entire team. Sounds very different than I help you.
Yeah.
So, my job and my goal is to make sure that you're using words that accurately depict your transformation that you can provide to audiences and employees.
Yeah. So it's like you're really thinking about the connotation of the word,
Correct.
the emotion behind it, and behind the emotion, feeling, and value. Fantastic. All right. Quinn, in your experience, what's the most common mistake speakers make in everyday conversations that cost them real opportunities?
They don't know how to verbalize their value, or their elevator pitch is boring and basic and there's been no intentionality put into it. So it's like, hey, my name is Quinn. Oh, Quinn, tell me what you do. I'm a speaker. Missed opportunity. I believe that if you want to get to the stage, it is going to require you as a speaker to be able to have conversations that convert. And most of the conversations that we're having about our topic, about our keynotes, are ending in confusion. And if somebody is confused, they're going to go to the next speaker that knows how to verbalize their value and articulate their awesomeness.
I love that. Articulate your awesomeness.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, I want to ask you about your core framework, which is the verbal business card. Are you going to be talking about that at the NSA event, or should we just briefly go over it right now?
Yeah, so I'll be talking about that. So the verbal business card is one of the things that I believe is a speaker's secret weapon to having more conversations that leads to more bookings. And what the verbal business card is an elevator pitch on steroids. It's big, it's bold, it's in your face. It is designed for someone to lean and say, "Oh my gosh, tell me more about that." I think that my audience, my members, my association people, my employees, my students might need that. So right now, if you're a speaker and you're telling people what you do, and they're like, "Sam, good for you. That's nice." You kindly got dismissed, right? You did not hit the nail on the head. But if you tell somebody what you do using my verbal business card framework, and people say, "That's really interesting. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit more about that. That's where you want to start having the conversation. When you're a speaker, your goal isn't to say, "Hi, my name is Quinn. Do you want to hire me to host your event or be a keynote speaker?" The goal is to get their attention and pull them in and have a conversation so it leads to that contract that's signed. And many of us don't understand it's not the pretty website. It really is a conversation that's being had. Whether it's a friend of yours saying, "Oh, I know someone. Sam will be a great person. He speaks about X, Y, and Z." That's a conversation. So my goal is to make sure that people understand that you have to understand that when you're talking to people, whether you are having a conversation with them through your social media, through your website, that you want to be always verbalizing the value of what you offer and not necessarily just leading with the title of "I'm a communication, I'm a leadership, or I'm a
Mm-hmm.
customer service speaker," because that is very outdated and it's going to keep you frustrated.
Boom. Exactly. All right. A couple of fun lightning round questions just to wrap it up because there's tons of value in there. And I kind of want to make this interview a bit of a teaser for, the event. So people definitely want to come and get more. I'm certainly going to be there. So I'm excited about it. Quinn, have you ever heard someone else's introduction and thought that's what they meant to say?
All the time. All the time. I think that people underestimate introductions. Sometimes they fall flat, or people just don't have the right words to say sometimes, especially if they're in front of a bunch of people looking at them. We make our living flourishing in America's number one fear, and I don't take that for granted.
Mm, yeah. All right. Let's talk about if a speaker is listening right now and they wanted to improve immediately, something how they could show up in conversations. What's one shift they could make starting right now?
Go through their LinkedIn, go through their website, go through their marketing materials, and look for any discount, dialect, or weak words. Is there anywhere in your copy or your messaging that says "I help"? Or is there anything that says "just" or "little"? And
Mm,
completely change that. You can change it to "I partner," "I assist," "I empower," "I coach," "I develop." If you go and do a word audit just in your marketing materials, and you can literally change that word with something more powerful and more convincing and more persuasive to really explain what it is that you do, that can be pretty immediate. And I've had people say it was such a confidence booster. I had all over, my website, "I help leaders become better communicators." And then I put, "I partner with leaders to become better communicators." And I felt that much powerful. So if you're looking for a quick way to give your brand as a speaker a boost, go through your marketing materials, go through your website, go through your LinkedIn, and look and see if any weak words pop out like "help," and see if you can change that to a more powerful word that you can really explain the transformation that you provide.
Quinn, thank you.
You're welcome.
Quinn, that was amazing. And I know that this is going to give our members great value and really raise the interest about coming to your event. So, that you've really talked about a level of clarity and precision in how you approach communication. And I think that really raises the standard of how speakers position themselves. So thank you for that. And for those who are listening, if this conversation has resonated, it's worth continuing for sure. Quinn will be joining NSA SoCal on April 17, 2026 from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's going to be a virtual meeting, and it's a much more, it's a deeper session on turning conversations into speaking contracts. And I encourage you to register using the link that will be underneath this post, wherever you see it, and or visiting nsasocal.org. Quinn, thank you again. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate the conversation.